right, guys, today we're going to go over how to adjust the trigger pull in the Taurus 608 competition. Now, I mentioned in the past that this gun has an adjustable trigger pull, so you can go heavier or lighter depending on how you want to set up your trigger without having to change any parts. And all you're going to need is a Torx number 15 and some sort of screwdriver to take the grips off. So let's do that first. Now, some other tools could be helpful in getting these VZ grips off because they are very nicely fitted. So if you have a flat head, you can use that to sort of pry the grips apart. I'm going to try to stay true to what I said and do this toollessly. Now that the grips are off, we'll go ahead and set those aside and talk about what's actually going on here inside the gun. This is the mainspring. It's riding on a strut with a base that has a screw on-off barrel over it. When the trigger is pressed or the hammer is cocked, it compresses the mainspring, and then when the hammer is released, it decompresses the mainspring. Strut comes down, hammer is pressed, mainspring goes. The same thing happens if you were to fire the gun in double action mode. You can watch it go through its entire cycle of operations. Now, what do we do if we want to change the trigger pull weight? Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we need to stabilize this strut down here, and then, depending on which way we turn the barrel right here, that will change the trigger weight to either make it heavier or lighter. To make the trigger pull heavier, I would turn the barrel clockwise. You can actually feel the strut moving higher into the frame while I do this. At its heaviest setting, this trigger will run around 12-ish pounds, which will give you reliable ignition with up to the heaviest Magnum primers. If I want to lower it, I turn the barrel counterclockwise. And I can feel the strut moving down in the frame of the gun. Now, there is a bottom limit to this, and you'll find it once the barrel starts unscrewing. If you can see that the barrel is now coming off of the threads, you've reached the bottom end of the trigger pull. That is as light as you can make the trigger pull in this gun. And from the factory, that light trigger pull is around 8 pounds, which is an incredibly light trigger pull. I love this feature. It is a tremendously clever feature that we have built into this gun to give competition shooters the ability to fine-tune their trigger pull without having to swap springs, without having to use tools, and really to just set this gun up the way that you like it. I have mine set at the lightest weight. It is reliable with lots of different types of factory ammunition, but I tend to stick to Federal ammunition because it is known for having the lightest primers. Once I've adjusted the trigger to whatever pull weight I want it, I can go ahead and put the grips back on the gun. When you're putting VZ grips back on the gun, make sure that you give them a good squeeze to make sure they're correctly back together before you put the screw in and tighten everything down. And that's it. Changing the trigger pull weight from 8 pounds to 12 pounds or back to 8 pounds is unbelievably easy on the Taurus 608 competition. No tools other than a Torx bit required.